Folks, I'm a voracious reader. Sadly, I spend too much time reading on X instead of in real books. And I got a book here lately from a dear friend, Izzy Justice, who's been on the show before. And now he joins us again. Izzy, your brain swings every club, chasing 10 hertz. You had me at the title. And first off, thank you. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you so much for having me again. And thank you for giving me a little quote that I could use in the book. But you're very gracious to have me. I'm delighted to be back.
The thrill and the pleasure is all mine. Okay, let's kick this off because there's so much to digest. And for the folks listening on audio, go check it out on YouTube. You can not only see Izzy's handsome, slightly graying mug now, salt and pepper. You can see me in this book, which I referenced on an airplane. So all my highlighting is kind of crooked because the flight was sort of turbulent. Anyhow, there's a quote in here, and I want to kick us off with this. And this is you, and the quote goes, and this one sort of shook me, and I reread it, and then I sort of had a moment where it was like, Selah, think about this. And for like 5 to 10 minutes, I was like, this is so right. So here's the quote. And you go, many of the gains in golf techniques by advances in technology. Now you're basically talking to me, the golf
Mhm.
instructor, and to any golfer who's ever worked on something in their golf swing or in their putting stroke or whatever. You go, many of the gains made are being eroded by overstimulated, distracted brains.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like, hell, he's right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
please elaborate for us.
Yeah, thank you. What a great place to start. So, not just in golf, but in all sports, but we'll just stick with golf here. If
Mhm.
you look at the amount of technology, and by the way, amazing technology that can literally measure anything about your human body, your putting stroke, your swing. We have force plates, we have 3D imaging, we have AI, we have TrackMan and quads, and um, the amount of information that we can now get so quickly that in years past or back in our days, Mark, that would take thousands of swings and so many different eyes. We have so much high quality information. I am not sure, to be honest with you, and this is your world, that it's ever been easier to be technically more correct.
Yeah.
There's never been a time where your fitness and the information around your fitness and your conditioning and your golf swing and your technique is so abundantly and quickly available.
Mm.
However, on the other side of it, I don't think it's ever been harder to be mentally healthy. So all that high quality information that technology is giving us to analyze our swings and the statistics and the analytics about, okay, certain types of shots or holes, or when the wind is here, all that information is available. But our brain is the problem now because our brain are essentially being distracted every 3 to 10 seconds. And this is a function of being human. If you
Mm.
want to be a human being today, you have to have screen time. I'll just confess, Mark, I would say 70% of all of my human function on my phone. I do my texting to my children, my colleagues, my calendar system, my banking, Mark, even now. My health records are there. I mean, and the apps, guide me. So when I say screen time and digital stimulation, I don't mean just social media, just like the bad stuff. I'm just saying we are constantly being fed stimulation, digital stimulation. Even if we have a free moment, what do most of us do? We take the phone out of our
Yeah.
pocket and start looking at it. So our brains, Mark, were not designed to consume this much amount of stimulation. The analogy that I always give people, if you'll indulge me, it's kind of a silly one, but a fun one. Many people can relate to it. If I said, "Hey, Mark, all of your viewers and listeners, I'm going to give you a code, and if you go to this restaurant on this day, it's all you can eat all day long." And your viewers will be like, "Oh, Mark, what a great guest Dr. Justice is. This is amazing." So they go to the restaurant and it opens at 8 o'clock and they start eating. They start eating, 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 eating. And then they take a break around 10 for an hour. They start eating again. They start eating again. And then you start eating again. By about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, long before the restaurant closes, you'll be like, "Oh, I can't eat anymore."
Yeah.
Like our physical body are not designed to consume that much calories. The
Hmm.
human brain is no different. It's soft tissue. We're not designed to constantly consume information and wherever we go. So what that's done, all this stimulation, it's got to go somewhere. When you consume information, it doesn't just come in one ear and go the other ear. It goes to your soft tissue in your brain, to your memory banks, and it's stored there. And that inventory is bigger and bigger each day, you know? So this noise in our head is making it hard for us to stay still over a ball. And if your brain is being distracted on average 3 to 10 seconds, and a pre-shot routine is, let's just say, 45 seconds, that means there's 15 times in the pre-shot routine, your brain is going to distract yourself. It's going to think of something that you read, something that you saw, the last hole, the next hole, what this person is doing. And now you've lost focus of what you want to do, all that valuable coaching that you get from people like you and information about your body and where your club needs to be. All that information also is now in competition with all the garbage information that is in our brain.
Yeah.
And so that's why I made that comment, is that all this gains that we're making in technology about the golf swing and the putting strong and our fitness, it's being compromised by a very, very distracted brain.
You get me thinking because as I watch my daughter play competitive golf, and you had a son who was a good golfer yourself, nowadays live scoring is being done by each competitor on their
Right.
telephone as well.
That's right.
And I guarantee you the kid is not just going there to the scoring app. They're quickly glancing at Instagram during a render or some sort of maybe hold up on the golf course or something. And
Yeah.
it's adding fuel to the fire, correct?
Yeah, and it's much worse than that, Mark. And we'll stick with the bad news for now and get to the positive stuff later. But so I work with other athletes and other coaches, and there's also live scoring in other sports,
Yeah.
And so what's happening now is if a junior does well, because everyone anywhere in the country can look at the scores.
Yeah.
And if you're scoring very well or you're winning, when you're done, you look at your phone and they're all this, oh, great job, good job, way to go, da 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 da. And then when you don't play well, it's dead silence.
Mm-hmm.
So that dopamine hit that comes from doing very good, and then it's leading people to, oh my gosh, like my value, my love, my self-worth is based on if I do very well. And
Yeah.
so if the kid is five over after 12 holes, in their mind is saying, oh my gosh, nobody's going to text me, or people are going to see that, and my uncle is, or my grandpa is watching, or a coach is watching, and they'll see my scores because it's live now. There isn't enough time to let it go. So the anxiety sometimes builds even before the round is over. And they're also looking at the leaderboard.
Mm-hmm. Gosh. Okay, folks, it's Dr. Izzy Justice. He's been on the show before in January of 2023. You've penned multiple books. Gyro Golf was what attracted me to you initially. Folks, go listen to the previous show. You can learn a lot about Izzy and what he does. Because I want to get to this stuff here. Your brain swings every club, chasing 10 hertz. Okay, so you've sort of given us the bad news or the reality of it with that quote that began one of the chapters. Um, I want to talk. I want to ask you first off about this book, because the statement that you made on the front of it, on the cover, and for the folks on YouTube or on audio, you can see it. I'm showing it here. Hal Sutton, tremendous golfer on the PGA Tour, major champion, players champ. He was on this very show and he said to me categorically, and he's the kind of man who speaks with authority.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, every shot is successful or it's ruined before the club is even swung.
That's right.
And the way he said it, I was like, gospel, Reverend Sutton, I'm with you. Now here you come and you have the proof through all the research and stuff you've done that Hal Sutton's premonition was correct. So share
Yeah.
quickly for us the inspiration for you penning this book.
Yeah. Thank you. So I do know Hal. Hal is not just has such a wealth of knowledge, but he's probably one of the most authentic human beings you'll ever
Mhm.
meet. Everything that comes out of his mouth is from his heart. And that's why he's loved so much.
That's why certain
What a
people
great
don't
guy.
love him very much either, because
Yes.
he cuts you in half if you're out
Yes.
of line.
Yeah, yeah, he's a wonderful guy. So, by accident, and I'm being completely honest here, by accident, I have done over 18,000 what we call functional scan.
Okay.
So a functional scan is different from a clinical scan. A clinical scan is something's wrong, and I'm going to go to a medical doctor. I'm not a medical doctor in a hospital clinical setting and see what's going on in my brain. So I may have Alzheimer's or epilepsy or Parkinson's or dementia or those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Now, in the clinical setting, it makes sense to look at the human brain because you want to see, well, what's wrong and how can I fix it? On the functional side, which is where I live, these 18,000 scans, nothing's wrong with you. You're just trying to say, how can I be the best version of myself? And so what I found out is that, and again, by accident, is while I'm looking at a brain, and again, let's just stick with golfers and let's just make it simple and say putting,
Mhm.
I can tell about 5 to 10 seconds before a golfer starts his backstroke whether or not that putt is going to be a good putt or not with about a 90% accuracy. So I'm not always right. And sometimes you can hit a bad putt and it still goes in.
Yeah.
But this is how simple it is. If in that 5 to 10 seconds before the stroke is initiated, I see a spike in brain activity. Now that spike doesn't come randomly. No one is wirelessly sending a golfer some information to go into their brain,
Yeah.
right? So it's coming from somewhere. Where is it coming from? It's coming from your own brain. And your own brain now is doing its job. It wants to protect you, it wants to save you. So it's giving you every bit of context information. So it'll remind you, oh, hey, this is a left or right putt. But remember 2 holes ago, you had a left or right putt and you left it on the low side?
Mhm.
Don't let this on the low side, hit it harder. So the brain starts to spike, and it could be other thing. I better make this putt if I want to make the cut. Or I got to make this birdie because I bogeyed the last hole. Whatever distracting thoughts that they are, once they enter the brain airspace in that 5 to 10 seconds before the start of the backstroke or the backswing, this is what happens. There is a spike that you can see. The problem with the spike, Mark, is not the spike itself. The problem with the spike is that the spike, so there's a surge of electricity, it clogs up sensory input
Mhm.
because sensory input is competing with your cognitive input.
Okay.
These are two competitions. So when someone says be present, what does that really mean? Well, being present means that my sensory input, what I see, what I hear, what I feel, what I taste, is being amplified. It's dominating my thoughts. So what a distracting thought does is that it dampens sensory input because it's taking up too much space because it's vibrating so high. So the problem with a spike or a thought, even a positive thought sometimes, but mostly negative thoughts, is that they dampen sensory input. So we lose a sense of where the target is. This is where the hole is. This is where I meant to hit the ball.
Mhm.
And if you don't have a target, then there's muscle confusion. Your brain doesn't know what to tell your muscles. So you may jerk it or you may hit it too hard or too soft. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
So you're in Georgia right now, right?
Yes,
Can I
sir.
assume that?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Okay. All right. So here's my first question. All right, Mark, how far are you from?
From where? Atlanta? 90 miles.
Okay. So,
Publix, 3 miles.
okay, exactly. All right. So let me ask another question. How far are you from New York City?
Don't know. 2 hours flying.
Okay, there you go. But
Okay.
look at the difference in those 2 questions. The first question, I said, how far are you from? I did not give you a destination, and your brain got confused and said, well, what does he mean here? Like,
Okay.
is he finished? Is he not finished? And then what happened when I said New York City? Your brain drew a line
Yes.
from where you are. It gave you a sense of scale. Even if it wasn't right in your mind, you've been to New York City, and it created this grid, right? So when there's noise in our head, we don't have a New York City.
Okay.
There's no destination. And remember, the objective of muscle sequencing is to create force and accuracy. So if your brain doesn't have the target, because in golf, remember, Mark, I think what makes golf the hardest target sport of all is that the eyes are not on the
Yeah,
target.
we don't look. We look at the ball. It's
Yeah. So
stationary.
your
Yeah.
brain has to remember it. But if you're spiking, then you don't remember it. So that's why I said the brain swings every club, because in those last 5 to 10 magical seconds before your backswing and your backstroke, you have the discipline to say, no, I'm going to wait for that target to come. I'm going to pick such a good target that when I'm not looking at it, I'll remember it. If there's a target in your brain, whatever you're capable of doing, whatever you've learned from your instructor or the shots that you hit, they will naturally come out. And I'll give you one last example.
Okay.
I often ask people, especially at the tour level, the guys that I work with, or in general, like they'll come out and say, "Hey, tell me one or two of your favorite shots from your round." Almost always, Mark, they'll tell me of a shot where they hit it in the woods somewhere and they had to manufacture a shot. They had to go below something, around something, this high, this low. And they said that was their favorite shot because, they made it happen. But if you think about it, in that moment when you're sort of blocked from something and you have to manufacture a golf shot, you're letting your brain be dominated by sensory input.
Okay.
You're saying, I have to keep it this low. I have to move it left to right or right to left or around this or over this. And that's the power of the brain. But in that case, it was forced on you because of the situation.
Yeah.
But in reality, that's what we have to do for all shots.
Fascinating. It sort of reminds me of multiple interactions I've had with my daughter. And obviously, I've worked with countless golfers like you too, but it's that's more like a relationship that's work wise and it's not personal as much as what your child is. And like she'll hit a really good shot. I'm like, and the teacher in me goes, okay, well, what were you thinking? What were you doing? And she goes, I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
And whenever she said that to me, I remember it's sort of being a visceral reaction for me going, no, there had to be something. And then as soon as she goes bad, or not anymore, or sometimes maybe, the response was, I got scared.
Yes.
And I'm like, what is scared? And I'm trying to quantify the whole thing. But whatever it is, whether it's quantifiable or not, it's this spike. It's the
Yes.
noise.
Yes.
It's that extra stuff that comes in that affects all this work that she's done in preparation for the shot.
Yeah. Let's just process that
Okay.
because what your daughter just said to you is so powerful and so common. It's
Mhm.
not unique to her.
Okay.
When people say, I wasn't thinking about anything, she is right and she is wrong. So let me tell you the right part.
All right.
So when, so sensory input, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I want to do to the ball, the frequency of that is extremely low. So for example, if you're thinking about a tree and you want to hit it off that tree, like a fade off that tree, just think about that. What did that tree ever do to you?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So it's just a live moment in time. And so there's no consequences to that. There's no drama attached to that. There's no history. There's no future. So the frequency in the brain is low. The
Okay.
minute that you start to say, hey, I better keep my elbow over here, or I better do that, think of all of the memories that are being retrieved for that.
True.
So when we have sensory input, it's so low that it feels like you're not thinking about anything. But in reality, it's exactly what I said earlier. You're being dominated by sensory input.
Yeah.
And so it's so low frequency that lay people say, well, I wasn't thinking about anything. Now, the brain is always thinking, but when you're thinking about something so light, like a target and what you want to do to the ball, it feels like you're not doing anything. And
Mm,
then when she said, I'm scared, without question, that's a memory. She
gotcha.
Nobody wirelessly sent a message to her and said, "Hey, get scared," right? So it came from somewhere, and that somewhere is her memory bank.
All right. So you've talked about the low frequency. That's 10 hertz, and you
Yes.
write extensively about it in the book. I'm a believer because I've discovered music or binaural beats or this healing, the physical healing you can get from listening to these different tunes, tones, whatever you want to call them.
That's right.
And that's how the brain works. But first, conceptually, in one of the first chapters, you sort of highlight a common denominator, and you've got a number of quotes. I mean, a few pages worth from great achievers, whether it's sport, business. There's people that discovered new parts of the world. It's a treasure trove of quotes and information. And then at the end of it, you sort of summarize everything. And the common words were calm, focus, effortless.
Yeah.
And every single one of these achievers, when asked about how they did it, that amalgamation, that culmination of observations came through.
Yeah.
So I guess you've sort of touched it with my daughter there, going, well, when she's just thinking about off the tree, there's no threat, so she's calm. The tree's there, so she's focused at it and focused on the shot. And then the effortless is a function of,
Correct.
where her mind is. Yes.
That's exactly right. And This is the part where, one of my accidental discoveries is that, everyone thinks that trying to get into this proverbial zone is some big secret. And
Okay.
the reality is that it's number one, not a secret, and it's never been a secret. Every higher human ability seems to occur when someone says, again, anyone, a surgeon, a doctor, an artist, a musician, an athlete, they always say that they're the best versions of themselves when they're calm, when they're focused, when they're relaxed, when there are no thoughts in their head.
Hmm.
This is common in all human endeavor. But remember, these labels that you just used, calm, focus, these are labels of the English language.
Yeah.
They're trying to describe something in their brain. That something is 10 hertz.
Okay.
So if you just go from 0 to 100, right? So somewhere between 0 to about 5 hertz, your brain is sleeping. It's not doing a lot of work.
Hmm.
10 hertz is basically where your senses are dominating. And then the higher up you go, so for example, if you have a thought in your head that says, don't leave it short, right? From a 0 to 100, that's probably somewhere around 60, 70 hertz. Because the word don't means you're recruiting past memories.
Okay. Right.
And so those past memories have drama, they have stories, they have consequences. So it activates a lot more in the human brain. So the thoughts that we have in our brain are such a powerful clue to where we are on that 10 to 100 scale. And we should view our thoughts like the weather, not to judge them. If it's raining, it's raining. Just make an adjustment, get an umbrella.
Hmm.
Don't say it's raining or it's terrible. That's judgment. So I encourage people, not just golfers, but all human beings, to not fight your thoughts, to become very, very well aware of labeling your thoughts. So when a thought comes into your head, oh, I'm tired, I'm weak, oh, I don't like this person, just know that you've taken your brain to a higher frequency.
Gotcha.
Conversely, when you see, oh, this tastes so good, oh, this is so funny, oh, I love this person's company, now you're around 10, 15, 20 hertz. But if you want to be the best version of yourself at anything, like you want to say something smart, you want to do whatever it is, you want to have a good conversation with your spouse or your child, or you want to do a painting, or you want to give a good lesson, or you want to pay attention so you can analyze some information, whatever higher ability that you're searching for, it seems to happen historically and currently when people are calm, focused, relaxed. Those are labels, English language labels, but from a neuroscience perspective, that is a frequency. So anytime we do human activities that matches that frequency, it feels good. If we eat food like a braai, right?
Yes.
Which,
No,
by the way, is like great food. It's meats with spices and all that stuff.
I'm at
And
10
you
hertz
taste
now thinking about it.
there you go, right? Because I evoked a positive memory from back in the day when we used to go to people's houses and have this
Mhm.
big cookout with all these people and just be outside eating all day long. Or maybe there's a symphony or a music that you like or something that you like to read. Anything that you say, oh, this feels good. I enjoy this, like going on a cold plunge or taking a shower or napping or cooking, all of these activities, they're moving your brain to a lower frequency. That's why we say, oh, I feel relaxed afterwards. So the real chase in our human experience is we do all these activities think, oh, I'm doing a workout, I'm eating food, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But in reality, we're chasing 10 hertz. We want to get to that state because it's a low, every other frequency higher, it's just stressful. It's work. It feels hard and you get tired mentally and you get stressed.
Yeah. Low states, higher performance. I think in the vein of complete understanding here, I want to take a little step back because you wrote about how the body is, or the brain certainly is essentially electromagnetic. I mean, it's all electricity,
Yeah.
and this state of the brain going from like asleep to highly alert
Yeah.
is completely natural. And I've
Yes.
always said to people, I'm like, you're not a golfer who's a human being. You're a human being who happens to be playing golf.
That's exactly right.
And no one really ever considers that your brain, and you've touched on this already, is in the place of protecting your body.
Yes.
And golf is secondary. And you
Yes.
can play your best golf and all your best stuff's going to come out when you are at low frequency.
Yeah.
But if you're all alert because something in your mind is like, oh, danger, danger,
Yeah,
then your body reacts because your brain sent all these electrical signals down your body. It lights the muscles up, tension erupts, whatever the case might be.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, our best intent is kind of laid to waste just because our brain's doing its job. So before we
exactly.
go ahead, I want you to describe that, please.
That's exactly right. We are no different. I know this might not be a very popular thing to say, but we're no different than a bug, a lion, a crocodile.
Okay.
Our primary function is to survive.
Yeah.
And, our neurobiology, our neurochemistry is all designed to get us to survive. Now, the threats that we face as human beings today in the pantheon and human experience, excuse me, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
these are not the threats that our ancestors faced. Our ancestors faced threats of a lion coming to eat you, or a fire, or a disease, or those kinds of things. But the systems that we use are the same. So the average human body, the average human male, Mark, is roughly about 5'8" and about 155 pounds.
Okay.
That male of 5'8" and 155 pounds has somewhere in the order of 30 to 40 miles of nerves in their body. Every part of the human body is in constant communication with the brain, and it has to be electricity. Let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, and I can see you, but let's say that there's a little bug behind your right shoulder, and it starts to kind of itch you and even bite you. All right.
Yeah.
Now, within a half a second, it won't matter what I'm saying. You'll stop listening to me, not intentionally. You will take your left hand, because your right hand cannot go over your right shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You'll go find that exact spot and you'll itch it. And you'll itch it long enough until the bug is gone and it stops itching. Think of the magic of that.
Yeah.
How did your hand know where to go? How did the signal go from that spot to your brain and say, hey, this is an itch, and you better do something because it could be a bee, it could be something. So our neurobiology and our neurochemistry is designed to coordinate an enormous amount of bodily functions. And so we have to compete with all of that and say, oh, I got to hit this golf shot. I got to make this putt,
Yeah.
right? Because again, you're right. Our brain is designed primarily to protect you. And, making a 6-foot putt to win something or to save a par or whatever it is, in our hippocampus, in our memory, the context of that is this will get me a reward. This
Yeah.
will allow me to get that dopamine hit. My dad's going to clap. My agent is going to do that. My fans are going to do that. I'm going to do that, da, 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 da. And we love dopamine. We love chasing it. And
Mm-hmm.
so we are very predictable. The one other comment I'll say very quickly is that we shouldn't feel guilty about all the thoughts that are coming into our head, because that's being human.
Yeah.
We need our new tools so that we can have a system with which we can identify those thoughts. Oh, I just got distracted. Now, if I hit a putt when I'm distracted, the odds of me not making that putt are extremely high. But if I recognize, oh, I just thought about the last hole, let me take one more look at the target, or let me do a neurohack. Let me spike it down. Then let me get the target back and let me hit it. Let me hit that putt.
Mm.
But to hit a golf shot, any golf shot, knowing that you don't have a target, knowing that you're spiking or think of something negative, you are bringing in a huge dispersion into your outcome.
You do a wonderful job of just listing brain states, and I use layman's vernacular there, and you just make them colors: red, yellow, and green.
Yeah.
And I don't have to explain this for folks to know what red obviously is and what green obviously is. But before we go there, because you're gonna share a neurohack and understanding those three areas. On one of the pages here, you've got putting brain thoughts versus make percentage. There it is in the book, and it's highlighted by me. And it basically goes brain activity from 10 hertz to 100 hertz. And the putt make percentage goes from 10 hertz, where it's like, I think it's 80%, down to about 2% when you're operating at 100 hertz or when there's a spike or noise going on in the head. And I'm going to read some of these observations to you at each level and have you elaborate. So at the lowest, well, actually, let me start at the highest. So in the red state. So here's the comment. Don't miss like last hole. My hands are shaking. Slightly lower. I have to make this. Slightly lower than that. not sure if the line is right. Slightly lower than that. Keep your head still, make a smooth stroke. Now we're going down from 100 hertz down to 10. Then right above 10, I am going to make this just relax, grip lightly. So these are more constructive thoughts. Then 10 hertz is the putt will go over that spot. The putt will enter the hole there. So clearly now you've gone from like, oh, I must make this, or I made a bad stroke on the previous hole, to a place where it's like, okay, just roll the ball over there, or I'm seeing the ball go into the hole there.
Yeah.
Now, Jason Day on this podcast said to me and said to everyone who listened, and he's a fantastic putter. He goes, every putt he hits from 60 feet to 5 feet, 2 feet, he visualizes the ball toppling into a certain area in the hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you've taken us from a place and you show the diagram from the brain activity
Yeah.
down to 10 hertz, which is essentially just like a wave.
Yeah.
Talk about this graphic because it is enlightening. And it's the kind of thing where anyone can just look at this, not even read the book, and go, right, I can do this and I can heighten my chances of making putts.
Absolutely. And those are putts inside 10 feet.
Okay.
So part of doing 18,000 brain scans is that when I see a spike, now I see a spike, but I don't know what the thought was. Someone has to tell me.
Okay.
So when I see a spike, I see different stages of spike. There's a difference between a 10 hertz spike, a 30 hertz spike, and a 100 hertz spike, right? So when I see these spikes and a guy misses a putt, I'll say, hey, I saw a spike. Can you tell me what you were thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, yeah, I was thinking that I was thinking about my last putt that I left short. And so that table was collated from, thousands of post putt kind of matching the spike that I visually saw against them telling me what they thought. So basically, when someone says don't leave it short, or hey, on the last putt I did this, that's somewhere around 80, 90 hertz.
Okay.
At that high level of frequency, your brain's ability to do what Jason Day does and say, oh, it's going to go over right over that spot into the hole is about 5%. It's not physical, right? So putting physically is one of the easiest things to do. I mean, you're just like hitting the ball barely. So then the lower that you go with those thoughts, so even the thought, hey, make a smooth stroke. Now, you would think that that's a good thought. But that thought is somewhere around 25, 30 hertz, because a smooth stroke is retrieving a memory, a skill. The problem isn't with that. The problem is that it's too high for your brain to have time to hold the target, right? So sensory input is really the master, which that's the master that we want to serve on these putts. And so when you see a blade of grass, when you see an old pitch mark, when you see the back of the cup that is brown and blue, or something about there that your brain can visualize and hold, the target, like New York City, creates scale in your brain, which is a grid. And the person that discovered these grid neurons, won a Nobel Prize for it.
Okay.
She basically discovered that if we have a destination, these neurons get activated in the brain and they create like a grid. And it's the grid that creates force. And then your muscle just execute it. Because remember, muscles don't think. They're just tissue. They need instructions. And if those instructions are, where is it going? Like, because the thought of make a smooth stroke is not a destination stroke.
Yeah.
Thought.
It's amazing. I have so many thoughts in my head. One of them is Brooks Koepka when he was asked about how he plays so well under high pressure at majors. He's like, well, it's kind of like tossing a ball to someone moving. I just toss the ball to the person moving.
Yeah.
And so essentially there, he's just saying target in his own sort of
Being
way.
an athlete.
And I feel like I have to, again, highlight to people that the noise, when I'm like, well, I missed on the previous hole, that, the brain then reacts and then the muscles tense up and stuff isn't as smooth. I get fascinated at Rory McIlroy, who everyone thinks he's a bad putter, but he's really, really good. He just sometimes misses like one putt on TV and he gets kind of crucified by it.
Yeah.
But he spot putts. He says to me, he just tries to roll the ball over a spot. He gets over the ball, never with a practice swing. He's just trying to roll the ball over the marker.
Yeah.
And you'll see him looking at the target a bunch. So clearly he's taking the target in.
Yeah.
Then it's a reaction to that. So it's very athletic, I guess,
Yes.
if you hear professionals talking about what they do.
Yeah. Well, all athletes in every human sport, especially target sport. I mean, there's some athletes where it's not a target sport, like a swimmer or a NASCAR driver. You aren't going after accuracy. But in a lot of human sports, where you're throwing a ball like a quarterback or a baseball, you know, like a Tom Brady, for example, they're not throwing the ball to where the receiver is. They're throwing the ball to where the receiver will be in about 2 seconds,
Yeah,
or three
exactly.
seconds. A baseball pitcher, and I've measured them, is throwing to a spot in the strike zone that the catcher said. But in all of these cases, they are very clear where the ball needs to finish.
Yes.
So even when basketball players, and I've measured them, when they're up there and they're about to shoot, they're not thinking, how is the ball going to come off of my wrist? They're not thinking what is the ball going to do in the first, third of when I shoot the ball. They're thinking, where in the basketball is the ball going to enter? And they're reacting to that. And unfortunately, and this is all of us in the game of in the game of golf, we've made golf a lot harder because we didn't understand how the brain works. But I always tell people, like, putting is one of those things where you almost don't need any instructions other than hit the ball there. Unfortunately, Mark, when guys fly in to see me for putting instruction,
Hmm.
I often ask them, hey, tell me the time when you putted the best. Do you know what they all say?
What's that?
When they were a kid.
You know what? I could have known that. I was looking for some deep answer there, but you're right. It's as simple as that.
Everyone always says that. And then I'll say, well, when you were a kid, how did you putt? It's like, oh, I saw it and I hit it.
Yeah.
No kid, when they were putting their best, say, okay, my wrist needs to be over here, my left hand needs to be there, my elbow is there. I need to do a pendulum stroke. I mean, those are all good thoughts to have. But ultimately, the master in putting, the master that we should serve, is I need to get really good targets that my brain can hold while it's not looking. If I turn my head back from the hole down to my ball, and that image of where the ball is going to enter the cup is still playing in my head, you are going to make a lot of putts.
And you're essentially going from red to yellow to green. So if I'm like, well, make a smooth stroke, that's yellowish. But if you got that
Correct.
clear picture, then you're operating in the green and at low brain activity. Okay. The book is a fascinating read, but we got to tease people a little bit. All right. And you got neurohacks to help
Yeah,
you basically to go from red to green or from yellow to green. And it's a place too where I want to say this, and this is for me. It's not a mistake to be in red. You'll be in red at some stage,
correct.
but you just want to get yourself in the green when you're about to hit a golf shot. So share a one of a plethora of neuro hacks you have in the back of this
Sure.
golf book,
Yeah.
please.
So first of all, let's tell people what neurohacks are.
Okay.
So if any human being is stressed, you've had a long day at work, a long weekend, a long week, whatever it is, we all do things that can help us unstress. We may watch a movie, we may cook food, we may go out for a run or a workout. So those are also neurohacks, but they're neurohacks that basically spike your brainwave down. They lower your stress levels. The problem with these traditional neurohacks or stress relievers, as we call them, is that they take too much time and they're logistics constrained. I have to go to the gym, go to the pool, cook some food, listen to
Yeah.
music, sleep on a couch. If you're over a putt and you're in your 45-second pre-shot routine and your brain says, don't leave it short like the last hole, we don't have the option of saying, whoa, whoa, everybody, time out. Let me go do 20 minutes of meditation and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
So neurohacks are designed to be in the moment, in the game, that have the same cognitive benefit as those traditional neurohacks, but you can do them in a few seconds. So let's do one very quickly. Let's do one you and I very quickly.
All right. Yeah.
Okay? So let me explain it to you first, and then you can do it. So this is called 10-10, and this is not in the book, so this is free for you and
All
all of
right.
your viewers. So I want you to count from 1 to 10 as fast as you can, and then I want you to count backwards from 10 through back to 1 as slow as you can.
All right.
Ready?
Wait,
And,
wait, wait, wait. And everybody watching this on YouTube or listening to this, you can go along. So we ready?
yep, go ahead, do it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, two, one.
Okay. How do you feel after doing the slow countdown?
Well, in the slow countdown, I suddenly became aware of the fact that I took a breath or two. Okay, which is always helpful. Um, I'm certainly a little calmer. The first one was real frenetic and it was like like
Yeah.
machine gun. And as I was counting down, I almost want to say that I focused on you a little bit better. It
Yeah.
gave me time to really become aware of you.
Yeah. So if I was measuring you, and I've measured hundreds of these, I can tell you with 90% confidence that when you went from 1 through 10 super fast, that I took you to somewhere around 40, 50, 60 hertz.
Okay.
And when I had you slow down, I took you all the way down to maybe 10, 15, at the most 20 hertz.
All right.
And that is a neurohack. And that is a neurohack that I teach people to do when you're waiting. If you're waiting for your turn to putt, if you're waiting on the tee box to hit a ball, at that moment, to sort of create a nice launching pad from which you can start your pre-shot routine, you want to start your pre-shot routine, sort of separate yourself from the past, separate yourself from the future, and get yourself ready to get some really good quality information and sensory input to execute the shot at hand. So that is an example. I mean, how long did it take to do that? Like 15 seconds, 20
Yeah,
seconds?
exactly. Well,
Right.
but now that you mention it, what happens too is that, like when I was counting, I remember I noticed you, but I wasn't sort of fixated on you. I was more, just focusing on counting slowly,
Yeah.
and I became aware of better breathing. But again, the counting was the thing. So essentially, I'm blocking out all of the white noise around.
That's
Am
right.
I going in the right direction?
That's right. That's right. And again, you amplified your sensory input. You could see me, you heard your breath. In that moment, now that neurohack is not going to last you all day,
Okay,
but if it lasts you for the next 3 to 5 minutes, that's plenty long enough for you to execute a golf shot.
true.
Right? So neurohacks are things that we've invented that allow you in the moment, and there are others that are in the book and on the app that allow you to learn these different ones. Kids can learn them, adults can learn them, and you can use them for every human endeavor. So I have kids that learn this for golf, but then they'll call me or they'll text their parents, "Hey, I got stuck taking a test or a quiz, and I did the 10-10. It calmed me down, and suddenly I remembered what I studied."
Crazy. Hey, I'm almost thinking um, that you're neurohacking your way to a good round of golf, and it makes so much sense now where I can watch a player at any skill level. Looks like the game is just flowing, coming easy. All of a sudden, they miss a shot, and then the thing turns in the opposite
Right.
direction.
Yeah.
And then instead of, the greats can allow, or they can turn that bad run back forward. Here recently, Scotty Scheffler at the PGA Championship in 2025, final round, hit it horribly on the first nine. Then Ted Scott said, "Hey, aim a bit more right." And
Yeah.
Scotty turns around on the second nine at Quail Hollow and shoots a few under and wins by like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So it's like he neurohacked his way to going in the right direction again. Is this
Yeah.
the reality of it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is a skill that we need not just for athletic performance. Going back to the very first quote, there's never been more technology information available that allows us to be better golfers. Like we can analyze everything, but
Yeah.
now we have become slaves to our brains' distracted minds. And that's not a character flaw, it's a human condition. And so we need new tools. We need new tools to address the new equipment that we have called our brain and this new experience of we found ourselves because this is a new thing. In the year 2010, Mark, there were 6 billion people in the world and roughly 1.2 billion devices in the world.
Mm-hmm.
In the year 2025, this year, there are 8 billion people and over 30 billion devices.
Wish
So
I,
this
wish I was in
problem
the device business.
Well, this problem is not going to go anywhere. All of us are relying
Yeah.
on information that we are getting there. But again, our brains are not designed to do that. So the ability to say, okay, I'm not playing well, I hit a bad shot. The first adjustment I always tell people, like there's so many adjustments you can make. Okay, aim left, like what Teddy told Scotty. But the first adjustment that you can make is let me spike myself down because if I spike myself down, I give my brain more access to the inventory that's in it, and I can make my own adjustment.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple life rule is that I don't need to know the answer. I just need to know how to get my brain to green. And then a green brain will figure out the best possible scenario of what to do next.
I love that. What a great sign off by you. But before I let you go, the book's name is Your Brain Swings Every Club Chasing 10 Hertz by Dr. Izzy Justice. Izzy, tell the folks where they can get this book, please.
Well, thank you again. So there's an audiobook, there's an ebook, and they can get it on Amazon. And then you can find me on social media. I have a guy that does that for me, but he's really good at Dr. Izzy Justice on X at Izzy Justice. I know you and I are connected there as
Yes,
well.
Izzy's here.
So again, I always tell people that this book is not going to help you just with golf. Golf seems to be the camouflage, but you really learn about your brain and you use your brain in all of life, on the course, off the course. So it's a two for one. You learn about golf, and you learn how to navigate it better, all the challenges that come on the course, which are mostly mental. But you also learn to, take it off the golf course and enjoy other parts of the human experience.
Yeah, golf is what did Bob Jones say? Golf is a game played on a 5-inch fairway, the space between your ears.
God, he was so right. Oh
Mhm.
my goodness, he was right.
And then I've heard it said golf is 90% mental and the other 10% you use your brain.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thanks very much for joining us. You're doing yeoman's work, man. I'm so thankful for you,
All
Izzy.
right,
Appreciate
cheers,
it.
my friend. Thank you for having me.